You know, that's really why all of us are here, is we want to grow spiritually. And I kind of, lured or tried to lure you all in here with the one virtue you need to be better men anywhere. And that's true. And I would tell you, we're going to go down to the foundations of the spiritual life. We're going to get back to the very beginning of life. And you'll see what I mean here in a minute. But if we have gone so far off track today that it really, we almost have to go back, to the very beginning. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go back and start all over again. We're going to do that by, I've been poking around on the internet, YouTube, looking for videos. You can find a lot of stuff on there. Have you heard of these things called TED Talks? There are these, I don't even know what they are, I just know that there's thousands of them out there, and they're pretty good. They get anybody, a speaker, a presenter, he does about anywhere from a 10 to a 20-minute talk on anything, but it's usually very well done. They've really thought it out. They've got some excellent points, and they have a good presentation. They deliver it well, they speak well. It can be very informative. So I was looking up leadership. Lacking in the world today is actual real leadership, and especially in the church. And if there's anything that men are supposed to provide to the world, it's leadership. And I would say if I had to point to anyone failing, that would be up there. A failure in leadership. There's a whole lot else that goes along with it, but that really is key. And leadership, it forces you, it will bring to light, do you have that one virtue necessary to advance? If you don't have that virtue, you won't advance and you won't be a very good leader. In fact, you won't even be a leader because you don't know what the virtue is. And I'm asking the question, why is it that pagans know this stuff? Why is it that these atheists, these worldlings can figure this stuff out, but we in the church can't? Because I heard some really good presentations. They're getting it. Even though they don't know that they're getting it, they are getting it. What do I mean after all that? So I looked on this YouTube video. It's called Extreme Ownership by a psychotic former Navy SEAL named Jocko Willink. Has anybody heard of that? Jocko? He's not really psycho, but he is a former SEAL, so he's under suspicion, right? He gave an excellent talk on leadership. He's right on the money. I also listened to another guy, his name was Simon Sinek or something like that. Good, excellent talk on leadership. That's going to be next time. But right now we're going to focus on a former Navy SEAL commander, Jocko Willink, and what he learned from leadership in the Navy SEALs, and what that has to tell us about the one virtue we need to advance as men, spiritually or anywhere else. So here is a story. I was going to actually get a multimedia and actually show you the video, but that'll be your homework, to go watch that video. Jocko Willink, Extreme Ownership. So in it he describes, he comes out all, he's just like huge. He looks like he eats a bowl of nails with motor oil for breakfast. He talks about combat, right? And he says, war is hell, but it teaches you things you can't learn anywhere else because it is merciless. You will learn the truth whether you like it or not, whether it costs you your life or the life of your men. You're going to learn about truth, right? There's no relativists in wartime. Right? So he describes a battle in Ramadi, Iraq. And it was the epicenter, he said, of the insurgency. And he had a group of Navy SEALs. There were U.S. Marines working with them, Army soldiers, friendly Iraqi soldiers, a combined arms operation. And he said a huge firefight broke out, and it was confusing. It was awful. There was stuff going on all over the place, and it turned out, he said, this was tragic. One man was killed, and 3 were wounded. And it wasn't us versus them, it was us versus us. It was a mistake. Because of the fog of war, they ended up fighting each other. One KIA, 1 killed in action, and 3 wounded. And he said that was the worst day of his life. And when he gets back to base, he gets like the next worst news of his life. Seesaw combat operations, The commanding officer, investigating officer, and the naval lawyer are coming in to do an investigation. Stay where you are. Start your debrief. He's like, I know what this means. I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to get fired, but I'm going to get court-martialed. I'm going to go to jail. Somebody's going to pay. So he starts writing his debrief. And he said so many things went wrong that day. So many people were at fault. So many people failed. So many people dropped the ball. He's like, and I knew who they all were. I knew exactly, because I was getting mad at all these failures. I saw it all happen. Everything was happening so fast. Everything was so confusing. He's like, I put down names. I put down mistakes. It's like, when it came to the end of it, he's like, I had a big list. But this is when he starts to get it. He says something wasn't right. It's like, I couldn't pinpoint any one person. Like, it was just kind of like this mess of everybody did. If anybody had done something right, this wouldn't have happened. But everybody was kind of equally at fault. He's like, but what was I going to do? Like, who was I going to pin this on? And he wrestled with this. And finally, he said 10 minutes before the debrief, he figured it out. So he walks in to the debrief, and there's the commanding officer, CNO, and naval investigating officer, and his SEAL team. And he walks in, and he greets the officers, and he turns to his SEAL team, and he says, whose fault is this? And one of his members raises his hand. Sir, it's my fault. If I was in charge of the Iraqi soldiers, the Iraqi friendlies, I wasn't doing good liaison. If I'd been better at my job, this wouldn't happen. They wouldn't have been in the wrong position. He says, no, that's not right. Shut up. Whose fault is this? Next guy raises his hand. Sir, I didn't give our position soon enough. I put it out over the radio, but I was late. If I'd given our position sooner, they would have known where we were. This wouldn't have happened. He says, that's not right. Shut up. Who's at fault? His men, one by one, all took the blame. He finally stopped him. He said, you're all wrong. I'm to blame. I am the one man responsible for what happened today. I am the senior man on the battlefield. Everything that happens is my responsibility. Fault. If you want to blame one man, it's right here. And he said that was hard. That was very hard. He said it hurt my ego, it hurt my pride, it was humiliating, and it was scary. See, he's taking the blame. He's going to take the hit for everybody. All those people that went wrong, it all lands on him. I said the result, his commanding officer, the CNO, or the investigating officer, trusted him more. They thought more highly of him. His men respected him more. Because not only did he take the blame, he identified what went wrong and what the unit was going to do in the future to make sure it never happened again. He said they trusted me more because they knew I would not ever hang them out to dry. I would never pin anything on them. They could trust me to take the hit. The commanding officer was expecting finger-pointing, excuses, and he didn't get that. Instead, he got courage. So in the end, he says, this is extreme ownership. Is it when you are responsible for something, when you're in charge, and he's talking to business leaders, but he said it goes for anybody. If you're in charge of anything, take ownership for absolutely everything that goes wrong in your area of responsibility is your fault. Own it. Take ownership and let people know that you're taking ownership. And they'll trust you and they'll respect you more. He said some more after that point. I think this is where he see right there, that's it. He gets it. That is it. He didn't know it, but that was it. What is that? Anyone want to take a guess? What virtue he's talking about? That's one of those things where it could be anything, right? Yeah, like humility. That's exactly it. Humility. Because humility and truth are convertible. A humble person is a truthful person. A humble person doesn't care what he thinks is true, what he wants to be true, what should be true, what is true. About the situation, about life, about reality, about God, about myself. That's where the humility comes in. Is, do I have a problem? I want to know. Do I have a limitation? Do I have a vice? Do I have a weakness? Is this my fault? If it's true, I want to know it's true. I'm not going to hide that vice. I'm not going to hide those faults. Because how can I work on something if I'm hiding behind it? And that's courage. That's what humility does. See, that humility enables courage. It enables progress. It enables growth. It enables progress. If you are lying to yourself about a weakness, how can you get better? Right? What do they say? The first step towards overcoming a problem is admitting you have one. That's why humility has been called the bedrock virtue. It's the foundation in the spiritual life. If you do not have humility, you can't build anything. You think you have as much as you want, but when the rains come, the earthquakes come, everything falls if it's not on that bedrock of humility, because that's the truth. And what do they say the most important thing in a relationship is, which is what sanctity is, a relationship with God, is trust, honesty in a relationship. How can you have a relationship with God if you're lying to yourself about half the relationship, about who I am? How can God do anything with that? So I thought it was remarkable that this Navy SEAL commander realized that. And because he was honest. He just said, this is what the case is. That's what the Catholic Church means when it's universal. If it's true or good, it belongs to the Church. And if you accept that, you're on your way to becoming a Catholic. Because you realize that is true, and this is where it all is. So that's the foundation, the foundational virtue absolutely anybody, man or woman, needs to advance, but men especially. And taking ownership of your life will help you get there. Anything that goes wrong in your sphere of influence is your fault. Absolutely no finger pointing, no blaming, no hanging other people out to dry. That will change your life. But who was the first man to blame his wife for his problem? Adam, right? That's the first one. If he had that virtue of ownership, we wouldn't be in this mess. If he'd said, God said, Adam, where are you? And Adam said, here I am. This is my fault. I'm the senior man on the battlefield, and I didn't stand up. I didn't do the right thing. I didn't stand up to Satan. I didn't stand up to my wife. Same thing, basically, right? Evil, the presentation of evil, right, is his fault. Instead, he blamed two other people. He blamed his wife, right? And then he blamed the woman whom you gave me the apple and I ate. Right? He's incriminating God himself. So that's the extreme selfishness. That is the extreme opposite, right, of humility. It's just blaming absolutely everybody else except himself. Now, what happened in the Garden of Eden? The punishment fits the crime. Let's see. Analogy. When you're not careful, you wander down by the river in Africa without you don't take your pills, right? You get bit by a mosquito. You get malaria. What do you suffer from? The effects of malaria, right? You get, I don't know, whatever they are, sickness, ill health. You got malaria, you suffer the effects. The symptoms fit the disease. Now, when Adam and Eve sinned, and they broke all of human nature, we suffer in the same way that they sinned. That's why every man's tendency is similar to Adam's, in to blame other people, to feel sorry for himself, to blame God, to blame his wife, to reject responsibility. Every man suffers from that. And women suffer from the same problem as Eve. Right? Eve's problem was, first of all, in desiring to eat the fruit. She didn't say, Adam, come here, let's eat this together. She didn't say, hey, Adam, why don't you come here and eat this first? She ate it first because in a certain sense she wanted to have that power before Adam. Adam was before her, Adam was in charge of her, and she knew that. He had care of her, but eating the fruit first, she could be above Adam. So a desire for power above the man, above who was her rightful, who God had placed in charge. We see that with the feminist movement. It's about power. In the church, why do women want to be priests? Not because they want to serve, not because they want to be priests, but because they want to be bishops. You can't be a bishop unless you're a priest first. So that's the inversion of nature, the damage that came to us. What did Eve want from Adam as she was presenting him the fruit? What did she want him to say? Yes? No. Eve wanted Adam to tell her no. She desperately wanted him to say no. Please stand firm. Stand firm in your principles. Don't give in to me. But he gave in, and she despised him for it. And that same thing happens in every man-woman relationship, every husband and wife. The woman wants her man to be firm. She doesn't want him just she wanted him to say no. Not that, but sometimes they want to be able to trust their husband that he's going to do what is right. If he caves into me, who else is he going to cave into? This is not a man of integrity. He's not a man of strength. I can't trust him. I don't feel safe. Right? Adam tells his wife no. He stands firm. She knows she's wrong. And he stood firm. And she respects him, and she feels safe. He didn't give in. I put that man through hell, and he did not even budge. Because he's a man of his word. He's a man of principle. I feel safe, and I feel attracted to this man. Right? Love increases in a marriage. Men are supposed to be in control of their environment. External and internal. And there's the trouble. If we cannot control ourselves, how can we control anybody else? Right? And the women generally have out of control emotions. They know that. In fact, the women will say, I want you to figure me out because I don't know why I do these things. I feel crazy sometimes. And they want their husbands to be able to say, this is what to do, this is what you're feeling, stop it, sit down, calm down. They want the man to take control, take charge of me. This is not universal, but this is the tendency, right? I think I read some study that it's 75% of women fall into this same standard categories, 75% of men. And then there's a 25% that I don't feel that. But 3/4 of them do. Some women are very in control. But even they still suffer. But it goes back to humility. The humility of being able to accept, I did the wrong thing. I've got faults, I've got failings. And there's I don't know how to call it, the two sides of the coin. On the one, you're supposed to be in control of your own emotions, your own passions. You're supposed to be in control of the situation. You're supposed to own up to your faults. You're supposed to take charge. You're supposed to be, have these virtues. And if you don't have them, you feel weak, insecure. Because guess what? You are weak, right? We are insecure. We know that I have deficiencies. I know that. I have a problem. I know that. But humility makes you strong. Admitting it makes you strong, right? I admit these things. And we don't make peace with them. We admit them, and then like that commander, Jocko Willink, this is what we're going to do in the future to prevent that. This is my plan for the future. What's my problem? I know that I'm cowardly. I get in a tense situation, I can't handle conflict. I just back down. If you know that, come up with a plan. There was some assertiveness training courses. One of the homework is go to a restaurant, order something, and ask for a combination that's not on the menu. Order something, and when it comes, send it back and ask for something different. Some people they flip out about this stuff. That's good. Because everybody has different weaknesses. If you know your weakness, work on it. And I tell you, the internet is fantastic for finding this stuff out. That's where I've found out these videos, right? And I'm like, that guy's got it, this guy's got it. I know how to pull these things together. So this is our task, is to be humble enough to recognize, where am I weak, so that I can start working on it, asking for God's grace, so that my weakness can become my strength. And my strengths, all those things that give me that false idea of myself and lead me to pride, I've got to see that maybe that's not so good. Okay, yes, that's true, but let me focus on my weaknesses. And that's where real strength is going to be. That's going to be advancement in your family, your marriage, your prayer life, your personal virtues. That's going to be the start. Thank you.